Hello there, I'm Mal, and welcome to this first look of Fort Triumph. Fort Triumph is a tactical turn-based strategy game with RPG elements, or the way I prefer to say it, what would happen if Dungeons & Dragons and the modern XCOM had a baby? We'll take a look at some alpha game coverage, and I'll highlight what I believe sets this game apart, so sit back, relax, and let's jump into it. Alright, let's settle in and discuss Fort Triumph. A few things worth noting: this footage is from the alpha, and at the time of this recording, it's towards the end of April of 2017. The game is currently on Kickstarter, so if after watching this you decide you want to support it, I'll have a link to the Kickstarter as well as the playable demo. If you want to play it and check it out that way, obviously, that'll be an option for you. That'll be in the description of this video. It's also worth noting that this is not a sponsored video. I simply think the game has promise and wanted to share it with all of you. Alright, with that said, let's explore the game a little bit. As I mentioned in the intro, at its core, it is a tactical turn-based strategy game. And for those familiar with the modern XCOM games, or even a game like Hard West, you're going to feel comfortable with the 2 action units per party member, as well as the cover system that it uses. For those that aren't, it's easy enough to pick up, at least initially, and maybe a little bit harder to master, which is a good thing. Like XCOM, the game features permadeath, and while I understand this might make some of you uncomfortable, the reality is it provides more value to your characters. They do level up and gain abilities over time, so it's an element that I like and I'm accustomed to in other games that I play, aforementioned XCOM being a big one. But if it doesn't do that for you, then I don't know. I guess if the little goobers aren't more important to you because they can die, then you're a heartless scumbag, perhaps? And whether you are or you aren't, I'm not judging. I'm just saying that's one of the reasons why I think permadeath should be in the game, and I welcome it. Whether you are or are not a fan of permadeath, it should at least keep you on your toes. Each new area begins with a quest or a mission objective, and these change as you progress through an area. Exploration is kind of an important part of the tactical landscape. In other games, maybe not as important, but in Fort Triumph it is. And this is where it starts to move itself away from XCOM or other tactical RPGs like Hard West or even Mercs, because the environmental and situational factors are sort of a big thing. So let me give you a few examples. There are some obvious things like, shooting a fire arrow at barrels of oil to create a massive explosion, or perhaps there's a boss creature you wish to freeze in order to slow it down, so you use a frost arrow and there's an interaction that way. But these are all kind of standard fare, right? But what if I choose to charge forward with one of my melee classes and get right next to an enemy, and then I manage to force that enemy to move? What would happen? So I have my melee attacker in this forward position, and I'm going to use the ranger's ability, the grapple arrow, to pull the enemy away. Now, because they're in close proximity, I get what's referred to as a attack of opportunity, which is a term that people that have played Dungeons & Dragons or other tactical games are probably familiar with. So even though I had already used all the moves on this particular character, he still gets to attack. So that's pretty cool that you have that kind of an interaction, that dynamic that takes place in Fort Triumph. Let's take a look at some other examples. Here's another fun one. What if we're in a somewhat tight space and the enemy's well defended? Our chances to hit with our ranged weapons are extremely low. We can't really get our melee attackers in there to do anything. Okay, no problem. Then let's shift things in our favor. So you've got an enemy hiding behind a pillar? No problem. Let's make the pillar do some work for us. So I'm going to cast Whirlwind from the mage. We're going to knock that pillar right down, and oh, squish goes the enemy. I think this is one of the coolest things in Fort Triumph, actually, is all these environmental things that you can do. You can also stun targets. Let me show you that. We'll move our melee combatant over here next to this crate. We'll use the kick option. We'll kick the crate across, and then you'll see the little stars floating over the enemy's head. Then we can take care of them whenever we want to, presumably. Alright folks, well I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. I just, with a couple of closing thoughts. Again, I think the big thing with Fort Triumph that makes it different than other tactical RPGs are the environmental and situational factors on the tactical landscape. The fact that you can knock down pillars, that you can grapple enemies and pull them into the open, that you can, blow things up, you can create cover for your people, you can do all kinds of interesting interactions that, quite frankly, I really haven't seen in other games that are in this genre, and I think it kind of sets Fort Triumph apart. Also, this is just the alpha, so I'm really interested to see as they continue to develop the game and they pick up some, funding and resources from Kickstarter, what they're going to do with it. I did back it. That's a question I'm sure it'll come up. I did back the Kickstarter because, again, I think the game has a lot of potential, and I'm going to continue to cover this game. So if you're interested in seeing how Fort Triumph comes along over the next few months, certainly you can check back in. So why don't you hit that subscribe button if you're interested in Fort Triumph or any sort of tactical strategy games, because I play a ton of those. I would certainly welcome you joining the community if you're a fan of these games as well. I hope that you enjoyed this first look at Fort Triumph. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know below this video. Thanks a lot for watching, and until next time, I am Mal, and I'll see you later.